Hello guys, and welcome back to another cold episode. On today's episode, we are taking a look at the best structure decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, or just ranking the structure decks from best to worst within Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. Now, within Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, there are 24, I believe, structure decks. However, only 17 of those are purchasable at any time within the shop. The rest are either structure decks that you get from starting the game as a new player, the starter deck and the 3 structure decks that are associated with that as well, and the 3 that were event only given to new players for inputting a campaign code of another player or another account. Now, all 3 of these are significantly better. Both the branded, the Sword Soul, and the Sprite decks are all extremely powerful in comparison to any other of these structure decks, simply because they are fully constructed decks, giving you access to multiple copies of important key cards, whereas the other structure decks are not. So I'm going to kind of not rank these 3, and I'm not going to rank the starter decks that you get from just playing the game. That being said, we're going to go over all of the other ones, starting with the most recent one, and I feel like this one is a pretty simple, easy S tier. I'm going to show you real quick what it looks like in the shop here, and you can see it's incredible. This is also one of the few times as well where we are also getting 3 of a card as opposed to being forced to buy 3 copies of a structure. That being said, this is the only one that does this, and it is purchasable in the shop, so I'm going to still count it here. But yeah, this is by far and away the best of the structures. It is so significantly better than pretty much any other structure deck out there, even regardless of the deck specifically that you are getting, that being Dark Magician, which is relatively weak. Overall, even if you were just getting this structure deck, you could buy this and immediately hop into Ranked, and at least get to, like, platinum. I was gonna say gold, but, like, let's be honest, you could get to, like, the mid-plats very easily with this deck. And that's not due to the necessarily quality of the game, or quality of the deck, but more so the quality of Ranked. That being said, still a very, very solid deck. 3 Rod, 3 Souls, 3 Illusion of Chaos, multiple ways to fusion summon into powerful boss monsters such as Destruction, such as Quintet Magician, etc. And most notably Timaeus. This card is extremely good at like a baseline level of Yu-Gi-Oh! So all of this stuff, very, very advantageous. And so, extremely powerful. Obviously, that one's going to be an S tier. The next one we're going to talk about is the next one on our shopping list here. That being Reunion of Raiders, the Raid Raptor structure deck. And honestly, this... Hold on. Let me actually refresh my mind on this one. Yeah. This one was also a fairly decent one, also giving you multiple copies of a lot of key cards, notably 2 apiece of this Bloom Vulture, which is a UR, which is nice. And then you're also getting the new Rising Rebellion, the Ultimate Falcon, as well as Arsenal Falcon, all of which are very important to the combo, allowing you to actually get into the big towers monsters, both the Ultimate and Rise Falcon. Then on top of that, you're also getting multiple Strangle Lanius, multiple Fuzzy Lanius, you're getting Raider's Wing, you're getting the rank up magic spells that you would need for this. Again, this is another one. You could buy one of this and throw it into Ranked and do extremely well with it. The only problem is that Raid Raptor is significantly worse than the new Dark Magician support, or I should say, than Dark Magician with the new support. But even with that being said, I still think that this is a very clear S tier. Giving you access to the entirety of the deck basically off of one purchase is way better than having to purchase multiple of the same set just to get those staples, or I guess they're not staples, but the archetypal cards that you would need. So there you go. Overall, very, very good deck there. Next up, we have our Crimson Power Force. I was just entirely wrong. I totally forgot that that these structures have started giving you 3 copies of a lot of these important cards. So maybe I will actually move Raid Raptor down 1 tier, just because I didn't actually realize that all of them started giving you those 3 copies. However, this one notably doesn't. It gives you 1 Resonator. Even with that being said, it still gives you 3 of a bunch of the other cards. So there's that. Overall, though, I mean, 3 Soul Resonator... I think the biggest problem with this deck is that there's not actually all that much in terms of things to do. You can make your Hot Red Dragon Archfiend, which is a great pickup. And that's kind of it. There's not a whole lot else that this deck is capable of doing. You're kind of forced into searching out Red Rain or something else of that nature, kind of hoping that that carries you over. Honestly, the extra deck is kind of bad. And I think the reason for this is because they gave us one of the... No, I'm lying to you. They didn't give us a card for free with this one. No, did they? They might have. Don't quote me on that. But I think the point of this one is that it gave you the cards necessary to kind of slot into with other cards in the archetype, right? Whereas a lot of the other structures are just giving you a wide array of these cards that you would actually need, right? That being said, overall, it's still a solid structure deck. It's a pretty good one. It even has, you know, some fairly decent disruption. I wouldn't put it in S tier, but it is it's still pretty good. We'll put it in A tier. We'll put it in A tier for now. We're gonna move on to the hero structure deck. This one is something. Here's the thing. Most of the payoffs for hero are in the form of DPE and plasma, right? Those are like the two big payoffs, right? Now, obviously, favorite contact into Shining Neos is still fairly good, right? Like, that is still a very good payoff. But in comparison, if this is your only payoff, it's not exactly great. However, even with that being said, this does two things. One, it gives you a fair amount of actual usable staples for the archetype, right? Varus, Vion, it even gives you like Neos, which for some reason is not a free card, and stuff like that, which is nice, right? That's nice. That being said, there's so many cards in here that are just so useless, right? The Winged Karibos are applicable technically, but man, they're not great to use. You have things like Dasher that's in here as well, which is something, right? Fusion Reserve is in here. A bunch of other like useless cards that really don't do a whole lot. And sure, you have access to something like Fusion Destiny, except for the fact that Fusion Destiny is summoning something like Destiny Hero Dangerous as opposed to DPE. So, not exactly the greatest of decks. And you're also getting Hero, which, again, you have like the one actual payoff for the deck, so it's not like you're really accomplishing a whole lot. I don't know. It's very clunky. There's a lot of anti-synergy. Like, you have favorite hero twice, but only one field spell to pair with it. And I don't think there's a way. Does this one search the field spell? No. Is there a way to search the field spell? There might be a way to search the field spell. But don't quote me on that. I don't know anything about hero. Anyway, I'm going to put this one solidly in, I think in C tier. This one's like really bad. Even though, yes, technically it gives you some pretty useful cards, right? It's just like, as a structure deck, it's still not great, right? Unless you are specifically buying it because you already have a bunch of hero cards. This is not a great way to start hero, right? You're missing so many pieces that it's kind of frustrating, right? So, there's that. I don't know. It might be a little bit better. I might change that later, but for now, C tier. Moving on here, we have Origin of the Galaxy, which is... This is where I think structure decks really start to fall off. Now, oh wait, no. If I'm not mistaken, is this one of the first ones? This might be one of the very first structure decks that we got. No. This is the one that gave us Photon Jumper. So here's the thing. Originally, this is how most of the structure decks would look, right? There's a whole bunch of just useless junk in here, right? So, I will say, in comparison, almost every other one of these structure decks looks significantly better. So, in fact, I'm just gonna move the hero one up here. As much as I hate it, it's not exactly great as a hero player, but even then, almost every other structure deck is going to be laughably bad in comparison. However, they're also oftentimes designed around being able to purchase 3, right? And being able to purchase all 3, this is a pretty solid lineup of cards. Photon Jumper, the Soul Flare, You actually do have some fairly decent payoffs in the extra deck, but you also don't have a ton, right? This one is definitely more of a like supportive structure deck that you would buy to get the cards that you needed to actually play the deck, right? Things like that Photon Jumper and what have you. I don't necessarily think that this is a good one even with that, but yeah, there you go. I'm gonna put it, I don't know, maybe B. I'm gonna put it in C tier for now. Moving on. Here we have the Blue Eye structure deck. This one actually, I will say, is a little bit better. I thought this one had the Link one. I don't know why I thought this one had the Link one. Never mind. This one is terrible. That's the problem. Almost all of the newer structure decks are actually well made, and all of the older ones, like, they work as structure decks because you could basically guarantee that you're getting like, oh, here I could get a Jet Dragon, and I could get Melody of the Awakening Dragon, and I could get Sage and stuff like that, without having to roll to get crafting material or to like pull for these cards from whatever set they may be from. So for the most part, they did the job. The problem is that they weren't all that great overall. I might put this one in B tier because you do get a fair amount of very useful cards, right? Well, do you? You get this, you get this, you get this, you get this, you get this. This one also gives you Keeper. I don't know. I'll put it above Galaxy for now. We'll see if it moves up, but for now it's in C tier. Moving on, we have Ninja. Ninja actually, this structure deck, if you buy 3, is actually very good, right? Notably because it gives you this guy, which you make a bunch. This guy, which you can make a bunch. This guy, which is very important to the combo. And it also gives you, like, all of the other monsters that you would want, right? It gives you Mitsu, it gives you Geo, it gives you Tobari. This is probably one of the easiest ones to buy 3 copies of and then immediately have a deck ready to go. Similar to the other ones, however, you're having to purchase 3 and then filter out cards as opposed to just buying the one. So I'm still not going to put it in like S tier or anything like that. But this one is really, really well done. There's a ton of very useful cards. And not only that, but you also get access to a bunch of just ninja cards in general, which I find to be pretty cool. Now, to be fair, in terms of staples, the only real staple that is in here is Debunk, and that is tragically bad. So that kind of sucks. Other than that, though, I do actually think that this one is very good. So I'm going to put it, I might even put it in A tier. This one's like really good. I'm going to put it in B tier for now. It might move up. I'm going to put it in A tier for now. I might move it down. That's what we will do for that one. Moving on, we have the Blackwing structure deck. This one I think is also very good. Similar in nature to why the Ninja one was very good, right? The only problems are you don't have a lot of diversity in the extra deck, which is generally what Blackwings wants. Like having access to full armor master so that you can have that unaffected guy in tandem with some of your other monsters is always nice. However, that one was given out for free alongside the structure deck's release. However, even with that being said, it's still not part of the structure deck, so I'm not going to rate it with the structure deck. So that is kind of something disadvantageous. For the most part, though, if you buy 3 of this, you do get a full extra deck, which is cool. And most of the time, you realistically only need the Assault Dragon. And while Armor Master is okay, it's something that you could make in addition to the other parts of the end board. And pretty much everything else is already here, right? You get Black Whirlwind, you get Black Feather Whirlwind, you get Zephyros and Vada and Sudri and Charunga and all of those other very powerful Blackwing monsters, alongside even powerful staples, not staples, tech cards, such as Blackbird Close, you get Twin Shadow, Swallow's Nest is in here, Icarus Attack is in here. Like, this is a very solid deck. Again, buy 3 copies of, and then you're immediately off to the races. So overall, I feel like this is a still well done structure deck, and I'm going to put it also in A tier. Moving on, we have, what's next? Gaian. This one this one's rough. This one's rough. There are a few things in here of note that I think are pretty useful, right? You get the Artillery Catapult Turtle, which is 1 card starter for the archetype, which is really cool. You get Blackluster Soldier of Chaos. You get Chaos Space. You get Envoy, which is pretty cool. But none of those are actually all that good. And you still have to purchase those 3 copies of the deck, as opposed to just buying the 1 and being done. You do have to buy the 3 copies. And it's kind of frustrating, because all in all, like, there's not a lot. I mean, you could play Curse of Dragon, Gaia the Fierce, stuff like that. But, it's kind of a mess. You do, I will say, at the very least, you do get 2 different archetypes that technically have synergies together in the BLS and the Gaia, so you kind of can get extra value out of that, but they're not great together. They're also incredibly cheap generally, right? Like, most of the combo pieces are commons and rares anyway, so you're not exactly getting a ton of advantage by buying this as opposed to just crafting the cards. So this one's got to be D, right? Like, this one's terrible. Is it on this list? There it is. Yeah, I don't know. It exists. I guess technically, I'm gonna move it up to C, and I'll explain why later. Next up, we have the zombie one. This one was actually one of my favorites. I don't actually think it's all that great, but because of the nature of zombies, all of these are staples for the archetype, or for the zombie theme, right? There's a lot of very powerful cards that you would play in multiple decks across multiple different strategies, right? Things like Zombie World, things like Baylor Drock, which I believe is in here. Am I crazy? Is he not in here? I'm lying to you. He's not in here. But Necro World Banshee is, which matters. You also have things like the Mizuki and Gozuki. You have the Unizombie as well. And there's a few other, like, extra deck staples in here for the zombie archetype or zombie decks. So for the most part, I feel like there are some very valuable pickups to purchasing this structure deck. And as a structure deck, it does have some fairly okay payoffs. It's not great. I mean, you don't have Baylor Drock, which matters a lot. That being said, I mean, there are some cards in here that kind of do things. I don't know. It's okay. I don't think it's a bad one, but it's not great. I'll put it also in C tier. I think it's definitely better than the Gaia one, but not by a lot. Moving on, we have Salad. It's Salad. I don't know what else to tell you. This one's actually really well done. Yeah, that's it. I mean, all of this is value in the extra. You get Heat Soul, you get Sunlight Wolf, you get Balinks. Now, obviously, this doesn't have the new support, so that kind of sucks. But as a jumping off point, it's really, really solid. And it does give you pretty much everything you would need for the deck. You can buy 3 of this and be 99% done with the deck, basically, which is awesome, right? And even if you were to purchase this and not get the new support, you would still have access to powerful payoffs, right? Things like the Roar, Rage, etc. are still very advantageous in terms of payoffs. So I still think it's absolutely worth the purchase, but it's not as good simply because it doesn't contain the new support. If it contained the new support, it'd be crazy. Nonetheless, I'm gonna put it at the top of B tier. I think it's kind of a step down from these simply because it doesn't have that new support. I think if it did, obviously it'd be like S tier almost. Moving on, we have the Spellbooks. Wow, Spellbook. Here's the thing, the only card that mattered in here was Spellbook of Judgment, because this was the only place that you could obtain it for quite some time. Obviously, Spellbook of Judgment is now back fully legal, and I believe it's in the structure, or it's in master packs and stuff like that. I don't know. You can craft it, that's the point. Everything else in here is just bad. I remember playing this when I was still doing the series of every new structure. I would just play the structure decks, and just the cards within the structure, this one sucked. This one was so bad. I don't even think you have Jowgen in here. Granted, I believe Jowgen is banned now, but I don't believe Jowgen's in here. So, yeah, you have no payoff. There's just nothing. You can't do anything. But yeah, hey, you get Spellbook of Secrets and Blue Boy and some other useless ultras that no one cares about. This one's D tier. This was so bad. It's so bad. I hate to say it. This one just has no real redeeming qualities. Dragon Maid. Dragon Maid has seals. This is S tier. I'm not good. Just straight up not gonna sugarcoat it. Like, legitimately, buy this solely for seal and you are done. You buy one of this, you're done. It's absolutely worth it. And for the most part, this also contains some very solid staples, or not just staples, archetypal cards, right? And it's a great purchase for Dragon Maid as well. So, yes, again, doesn't contain the new support. I don't think it matters. Seal. I may be highly overrating Seal, but still, like, this structure deck's so much better than, like, 99% of structure decks. And, yeah, would I say that this is better than the hero one? Yeah, I would. Like, I'd much rather just buy this over the hero one. This gives you everything that you need for Dragon Maid. Minus the newest, there's like 2 new cards you'd be missing, which is the Chamber Dragon Maid high level monster and the new Lady Dragon Maid fusion. And I think that's it, right? Like, everything else you have, right? So even as an older strategy, it still contains some extremely good structure decks. Yeah, no, I'm keeping it at S tier. I'm keeping it at S tier. You can't change my mind about this one. Oh, here's where things get really bad. Brother, I have no idea why is Honest in here. Yeah, here's the thing. This structure deck, and this structure deck are all aggressively bad. They are, like, comedically bad, right? And the reason is because they were all the very first structure decks in the game. And so they were kind of just poorly made. I don't know what else to say. Like, they were just poorly constructed, and I think Konami expected them to be worth the value because you're getting guaranteed URs and SRs or something of that nature. But the problem is there's not a single card in here, and along with pretty much all of the other 2 as well, that you would want for most of these strategies. There's like Skullcrabat Joker in this one, and that's kind of it. Like, most of these are full of useless cards that no one wanted, and it's just, ugh. You're like, oh, wow. How useful. Now, to be fair, there's one other structure deck that is actually pretty good. And that's the Sidra one. This one is, again, missing the new support, so therefore it does have to go at least a fair bit lower, or at least that has to be taken into consideration, right? We don't actually have the new support within this one, which makes it at least a little bit worse. However, overall, it does kind of give you some cards that you would want, right? It gives you Core, it gives you Sidra. The problem is that they're kind of low rarity, and the only cards that actually matter are Fusion Deployment. Yeah, without Fusion Deployment, this one is so bad. Like, it's really not all that great. I'm gonna put this one in, like, C tier. I don't think it's that bad. And it's fine for purchasing if you want to buy the Sidra stuff, but even then, it's like, it's rough. Yeah, there you go. There are the structure decks, all laid out for you. I actually forgot how much better the newer structure decks were in comparison to what we had previously, but oh man, I'm actually kind of surprised by how well some of these older ones stood the test of time. Like that the Dragon Maid structure deck is genuinely insane how well made that one was for early on. Obviously, it sucks having to buy multiple in order to buy the deck, right? Or in order to play the deck, right? But even with that being said, you would still probably want to buy multiple of pretty much every other one just to get those extra URs and what have you, or the extra deck monsters, right? You wouldn't necessarily need to, but that is something even with these newer 4 structure decks that you'd probably want to do anyway. Yeah, Dragon Maid was just really well made. That's pretty much it. Obviously, the stinkers tend to be the earlier ones, and all the rest, it just kind of gets better as time goes on. Yeah. Also, if you do care, all of these would basically be in S tier. They're basically just structure decks, or not structure decks, like ready to go decks, fully done of meta decks or previously meta decks. So yeah, I think they're all very solid. S tier probably, but they're kind of on a tier of their own. I'm going to call it quits there. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you guys did indeed enjoy. If you did, like us very much, so appreciate it. And remember to always stay frosty. Bye-bye.